Well, a wonderful good morning and welcome to the final seminar of the Caribbean Development Bank's 51st annual meeting. This is the Youth Forum. Listen, learn, and live youth insights on innovation imperatives and investments. In addition to the president, management, and staff of the CDB, we're also joined this morning by governors, by directors from the CDB's member countries, other development partners, colleagues from civil society, departments of youth, ministries of education, youth practitioners and advocates, and a host of youth from all across our beautiful region. My name is Raphael Saul, in the chair, and so happy to be spending some time with you this morning. I'm your co-host for this morning's Youth Forum, and I am joined by the incredible, by the one and only, by the gem of Jamaica, the lady herself, Dr. Terry Carell Reed. Good morning to you, Terry.
Wow, Raphael, thank you so very much for that amazing introduction. It is an absolute pleasure to serve in the capacity of co-host with you. When I have the time, I will definitely take a flight and get over to Barbados as quickly as possible. So to you, our viewers, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on which part of the world you might be tuning in, because we understand that CDB engages a global community. So of course, I send greetings from Jamaica, but please drop in the chat, let us know where you hail from. If there's anyone from SVG, we love you. We're sending our prayers, our support as we speak about growth, resilience, recovery. We know that you are at the center of those conversations, but you will rise like the phoenix. Haiti, you sometimes are the only representatives of like the French Caribbean. Kijanouye. Bienvenue. And then a little birdie told me that we have some viewers from Mexico, Colombia. Entonces, para los que hablan español, bienvenido. Es un placer tenerles con nosotros, ¿no? And finally, we just want to acknowledge the president of the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Hyginus Jean Leon, who is newly minted. We can still consider him to be newly minted, and he's been doing such a fantastic job. So, Raphael, I'm excited. CDB has created this platform for the youths to express themselves, but not to just express themselves, but to be heard by the right people who will enable them. So let's kick this thing off.
Oh man, Terry, I'm so excited. And to kick us off this morning, I want to head over to the spice aisle. A young man, 23 years old, Brandon Brathwaite, he's from Grenada. He is the winner of the 20 to 29 category and the overall winner of the Caribbean Development Bank's VYBZING Spoken Word competition. We got creativity, we got innovation, and we got talent. His winning piece focusing on innovation and education all across the region. Help me welcome Mr. Brandon Brathwaite.
I cling to the philosophy of a man and a fish, as if teaching him the trade to brave the waves and conquer the ocean to break his fast has been the single most important lesson of the past. You see, somehow we fed this man for a lifetime, but the life he lived and the life of living today is so vastly different that the catching fish lesson isn't sufficient. Effective, maybe efficient. The moral of the story is wisdom, because it's more than the application of knowledge, and I doubt you would describe a boat as the best college setting. It's a lesson learned when the sun was setting and this student was settling down on rough waters, setting his net for the catch of the day. See, lessons and education abandoned growth and became more about profits. The truth is, nothing changed except for institutions lining their pockets. Everyone gets qualified and begs for a handout. What do you expect? Graduation is just you collecting a paper with your hands out. So that's why month end is paper in hand with your palms out. It's asinine how after school an educated fool now begins to think about accumulating wealth. As if your mind isn't an asset. Satoshi Tajiri was interested in collecting bugs and made sport of it in his neighborhood. Nowadays, a child with such interest would be labeled weird, as he's not in his books. He managed to capture and record all their characteristics and made a directory of these creatures, and while educating himself in game design, became the brainchild of the world's most successful media franchise, Pokemon. Truth be told, he had the rarest education in this world, the education of oneself. Satoshi, had he been a Caribbean youth, would have been boggled with questions of what type of doctor, lawyer, or businessman he wants to be. Sadly, had this been true, the world would never know Pikachu. But I have a confession, and it comes from the 8-year-old me who never cared about figures and wished someone understood my purpose. I just wanted to be welcomed. I eventually went into the study of figures and forgot my purpose. To innovate, we may need to connect. And no, I'm not talking about dots, I'm speaking about hearts. Allow me to finally feel beyond the blackboard and chalk. Let me talk to myself with soil between my fingers while the teacher explains its variation from others. Let my mind linger as I spot a cloud when cumulonimbus is explained. Innovate education by making it active. So the way forward must be active and supportive. Let's get out of the classroom and go for a trip and note what the children think about. Let's reward not just the draft of a business plan, time to take it further. Let's understand the desire to break toys apart and channel it. Bring talent to life in every school beyond just a pencil, table, and wooden stool. But most importantly, give the youth the freedom to speak their mind. And maybe one day, that fish could feed them for a lifetime.
My goodness, Raphael. If my grandmother was here, she would say out of the mouth of babes. And you wonder why youth like him don't have more platforms. Certainly think, he's really just challenging us to rethink, reimagine, restructure what our education looks like. It's more than just applying knowledge, it's wisdom and connecting with people's purposes. Beautifully done.
Amazing. Amazing, Terry. The lyric that came to mind was from Bob Marley's song, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery." So much of the development we want to see across the region, it's encapsulated in the creative imagination of our youth. And I think that's what makes this platform that CDB has created so incredibly powerful and valuable. Because we're going to be hearing those voices.
Absolutely, and we can understand why Brandon would have won overall for the VYBZING competition. Job well done, Brandon. So now, after such a powerful presentation, it gives way to yet another powerhouse. It is a pleasure to invite a woman, a national of Jamaica, who has served excellently in roles that range from legal counsel, deputy general counsel, to currently the vice president, corporate services and bank secretary of the Caribbean Development Bank. Please welcome Mrs. Yvette Lemonia Seal to the virtual stage to deliver the opening remarks.
Wow, thank you, Terry Carell and Raphael. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to what promises to be an exciting VYBZING 2021 Youth Forum on Listen, Learn, Live, Youth Insights on Innovation Imperatives and Investments. The VYBZING Youth Program is one of the bank's programs that specifically targets youth engagement and participation in the development process. Today, we are here to continue that engagement as we listen, learn, live, as we share, and more importantly, as we embrace youth insights on innovation imperatives and investments. Let me join in congratulating Brandon Brathwaite, the overall winner in CDB's 2021 VYBZING Spoken Word Competition. Brandon, we heard you. Your advocacy for action communicates the urgency of the change needed, underscores the importance of this forum, and compels us all to act. Well done also to Khadija Halliday and Leanna Green, who impressed our judges and won the 15 to 19 and 10 to 14 categories respectively. We'll hear their entries also late in the program. We all know that innovation is important for solving development problems, for spurring economic growth, and for transforming our societies. And who best to lead the charge to innovate? Those who explore, question, challenge, and disrupt. The ones more likely to pick things apart and form something new. Young people are overwhelmingly represented in those ranks. And we have many examples of those change agents. Shauri Gordon Tiniel Sahadath, Shawnel Regis, and Lawanda John, 4 teenage girls from Chaguanas North Secondary in Trinidad and Tobago who developed an app to anonymously report bullying in schools and to provide for online counseling. Antigua and Barbuda's Trevon Solomon, Ghana's Malcolm Wills, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Barbados' own Jana Brown, TNT's Justin Barker, all winners from our 2019 VYBZING Youth Programme, are using innovation to address the issues of exclusion in education and health, to scale up the use of artificial intelligence in creative industries, and to promote economic inclusion of persons with disabilities. Johanna Jujon, a young St. Lucian, founded the Caribbean's first indigenous agriculture biotech firm to fight invasive seaweed threatening his country's beaches. This is just a small sample of what can emerge as young men and women unleash their creative and innovative potential. And this is the charge. I go further, the duty, the responsibility of institutions like CDB, of policymakers like the governors present here today, to act so as to unleash the creative and innovative potential of our young people. Today, we have assembled an impressive panel of young innovators and entrepreneurs. Carlton Cummings from Barbados, Bevan Charles, Grenada, Kyle Maloney, Trinidad and Tobago, will be joined by Greta Kutelenko from Canada, who you will soon discover is a trailblazer in many ways. Together, they will discuss their journeys as innovators, drawing from their experiences and observations to inspire other young people, and perhaps the not so young. They will also share strategic recommendations for the change that is needed to promote youth innovation and entrepreneurship in the region. And we look forward to those recommendations. I have read their profiles and I tell you, I am impatient to make way for them to take center stage. To those young people who have joined us via the various platforms, I say welcome, and I look forward to your active engagement. Now, in the Caribbean, approximately 60% of the population is under the age of 30. Reports on youth often focus on their disproportionate representation among the poorest and most vulnerable, and on their involvement in antisocial activities. But I remind you that they are also easily the most energetic and creative. So, providing an enabling environment for and promoting the development of engaged, empowered, and equipped youth is essential for the full realization of youth rights and capabilities. Achieving such development is central to the achievement of the bank's core mission of reducing poverty and transforming lives through sustainable, resilient, and inclusive development. Thus, the importance of youth engagement to CDB. Through our work with our VYBZING Youth Outreach Program, and also now with our 2020 Youth Policy and Operational Strategy, both informed by consultations with many young people across the region, we have increased youth engagement and we have increased our focus on ensuring that investments recognize, utilize, and support the growth of young people's strengths. So the insights our young people share today, as speakers and as participants, will specifically inform the development of a program of support for youth innovators and entrepreneurs across the core areas of the bank's work and in emerging areas. We therefore welcome candid contributions, active engagement. The Prime Minister of Barbados and the chair of CDB's 51st Annual Board of Governors meeting, the Honorable Mayor Motley, regrettably could not be with us today. But Prime Minister Motley has been a constant advocate and agent for youth development and for innovation as a vehicle for transformation of our small island developing states. A passion that was seen as recently as the bank's 50th anniversary church service in 2020, when she, in delivering her remarks, called for greater engagement by CDB with youth. So, to the policymakers and heads of development organizations joining us today, as our young people share their perspectives on the imperatives that must inform an enabling environment for innovation, let us all listen and learn. And then, very importantly, let us act. Let us act so we can build societies and economies that are resilient and sustainable. In closing, let me say, CD looks forward to an exciting and enriching forum to continued engagement and to seeing how this effort leads to success stories in innovation and entrepreneurship that redound to the national and regional good. I should just add, however, in the interest of full disclosure, that this is one event on the CDB annual meeting calendar that I eagerly look forward to each year. The opportunity to meet, sit back, and to listen to our region's youth as they share their views, their perspectives, their stories, their dreams, and their challenges. This platform affords me a unique glimpse into the future, for today's youth will morph into tomorrow's leaders and shape the destiny of this region we all love so dearly. So, as we hear our young entrepreneurs, our young innovators, youth with disabilities, indigenous youth, our youth leaders, and others who join as panelists, as moderators, as artists, and as advocates, let us sit back, let us listen, let us learn as they set about creating their tomorrow, their future. I thank you, colleagues.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Yvette Lemonius Seal, Vice President, Corporate Services and Bank Secretary at the CDB. Your remarks really do set into context for us why the outputs of our upcoming panel discussion are so valuable towards shaping policy and programs across the region. Terry Carell.
You know what? I was listening to her, and I think what she said was very timely, especially what we're going through right now. Very instructive as well. So many points to be taken away. But for me, my top two takeaways are definitely when we look at the pandemic didn't necessarily cause our vulnerabilities. I think when we look at the region, we've always had long-standing vulnerabilities. So the question is, how do we create environments that will enable and educate and empower our youth in order for them to self-actualize, right? And number two, and more importantly, is we cannot have conversations about youth entrepreneurship and youth innovation without actually inviting them to the table. And I think CDB gets it. They understand, they're open to having intergenerational dialogue, and they take all of the opinions, the challenges, the voices of the young, and they bring it to the table, and that helps to inform their programs and youth investments. So I think it's spot on, and it definitely gives way to the type of discussion we're about to have right now.
Absolutely, Terry. And I believe the CDB has done a phenomenal job of assembling a truly esteemed panel of young innovators from across the region and even beyond. And I really believe we're going to have an impactful and informative discussion. Leading us off is Ms. Greta Kutelenko, with a background in automated data analysis for testing and anomaly detection. Greta Kutelenko has worked on system testing, monitoring, and analysis for major original equipment manufacturers and tier ones, including Bombardier and Magna. In 2018, Greta won the Female Founders Competition, sponsored by Microsoft M12 Ventures. She also has been included on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list for manufacturing and was named one of 2019's Canadians to Watch by Automotive News. Let's welcome to a screen near you, Ms. Greta Kutelenko. Hello, Greta.
Hi, welcome, Greta. Oh, fantastic. We can hear you now. Fantastic.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
And so now it's my pleasure to invite our next panelist and to introduce him, Kyle Maloney, co-founder of Tech Beach Retreat and Chef Made. He comes from the land of doubles, pan,
Yes.
carnival. But Kyle is a technology entrepreneur and digital marketer. And I said it before, he's the co-founder of Tech Beach Retreat, which we're very familiar with, and Chef Made. And since 2011, Kyle has co-founded 5 technology-driven companies in the industries of sustainability, healthy food, local business search, technology business convening, and digital marketing. He has made such a splash that his companies have been written about in global and regional publications like Forbes, the Huffington Post, Essence, and Inc. magazine. And he's also the next gen board member of the Inter-American Development Bank in Trinidad. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together as we welcome Kyle Maloney to the virtual stage.
Terry, I need to have you introduce me everywhere, man. Wow.
Just pop out and introduce
Nailed
you.
it.
Welcome.
Thanks so much for joining us, Kyle. Next up, all the way from the beautiful Spice Isle, Grenada, we're really happy to have Miss Bevan Cadell-Charles, an agriculture enthusiast, farmer, youth advocate, and entrepreneur. She founded Akata Farms. It's a sustainable integrated farm that aims to build sustainable, climate-smart farms in Grenada and across the Caribbean. She wants to increase the region's capacity for export, value-added products, and strengthen agri-tourism enterprises and youth involvement in agriculture across the region. Huge mandate. That's a big mouthful.
Big industry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. She's Grenada's first country representative for Young Professionals for Agricultural Development, an organization led by young advocates for agriculture and advancement and change. A one young world ambassador. Woo, those words were rolling around in my mouth there. President of the Grenadian Youth for Agriculture Development in Technology, as well as the regional coordinator for the Sustainable Development Goals Corps, another youth-driven organization with teams across the globe. Her interests are not only in farming, but they're much more broad into the entrepreneurial sphere. She's deeply passionate about ICT, innovations in hydroponics, protein engineering, nanotechnology. This girl is loaded. And she's very committed to agricultural production, improving agricultural production, and working towards enhancing food security. Big topic for us in the region for sure. Her aptitude for personal development enabled her to be one of 14 Caribbean entrepreneurs chosen for the Caribbean Youth Entrepreneur Program. Bevan was recently awarded the winner of the Caribbean Region Commonwealth Youth Award 2021. You shut it down, Bevan. You shut it down. Welcome all the way from Grenada, Miss Bevan Cadell-Charles. Hey, Bevan.
Hi, I have nothing to say yet. Thank you for that warm introduction.
Very accomplished, very
Thank you so
accomplished.
much.
I'll soon
Thank
come
you.
across there and get my nutmeg. Love my
Of course.
Absolutely.
And certainly last but not least, you can already tell that this group is going to be dynamic, right? Last but not least, I introduced our virtual stage, Carlton Cummings, CTO, Chief Technical Officer at Acceleron Barbados. He was born and raised in Barbados. Shout out to my grandparents who are Bajans, and is an entrepreneur and design engineer focused on solutions to global energy and waste challenges. Carlton's career spans from electric motorsport, working as a battery engineer on an electric motorcycle racing team, to renewable energy coordinator for solar PV installation. He has worked in the Caribbean, UK, and in Africa, providing expertise ranging from energy audits from homeowners to efficiency modeling for commercial fleet vehicles. With a specialization in sustainable design and clean energy systems, he's achieved international recognition such as Forbes 30 Under 30 list in 2017, Shell Global Innovator 2017, and Shell Entrepreneur of the Year 2016. At his own Acceleron company, which operates in the UK, he works as Chief Technical Officer. And in this role, he channels his energy, into developing technology strategies and product innovations to make batteries more accessible and sustainable. To date, Acceleron has developed over 5 battery products and 4 technology patents. Powerhouses. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome to our virtual stage, Carlton Cummings.
Hi. Flattering intro. I see myself just a guy that makes batteries, but I'll take it.
Modesty
Terry,
will
I'm
get
already
you
seeing-
everywhere, Carlson. Yes, Raphael.
I'm already seeing some room for collaboration here. We've got Greta in Canada, an automotive tech, genius expert whiz, and we've got a former engineer on an electric motorcycle racing team. Something's got to happen. Just remember me in the postscript.
Absolutely. But it's an honor to have you. CDB really wants to find dynamic speakers in different industries, different backgrounds, different experiences, because we understand that it will really add value to what our young people are listening to. So I guess the first question that I'll ask each person to tell us, as quickly as possible. Right now, we have a lot of young persons who think they have to have everything figured out right now. But for many of us, we either stumble upon our passion. Some of us, we are told by someone else, we think you'll be great at that. Some of us grow into the passion. I mean, how is it that you manage to end up where it is you guys are right now? I'll start with Bevan.
Great question. I have been blessed really to find my purpose really early in life. I grew up surrounded by agriculture. My father's a farmer. So for me, it was home-based. I didn't have everything figured out. Though I wanted to get involved in agriculture, I needed to have a foundation with education. I dabbled a bit in politics. I wanted to do law. So I didn't have everything figured out. I think what is important is when you set goals and you have big dreams, you stay on the path. Life will throw you obstacles. That is a given. But you have to remain true to yourself and true to what you want to do.
All right, so yours was home-based.
Yeah, home-based agriculture.
Love it. So what about you, Kyle? Tell us a bit about where it all starts for you. Where did that passion and enthusiasm for tech and entrepreneurship, where did that come from for you?
Yeah. So for me, everything really started with my dad. My dad's an entrepreneur, and throughout my entire life, I saw him start a few different businesses, go through the highs and the lows. And really, he inculcated the mantra into me of going in and finding value, solving problems in the world. And people don't know, because I don't speak about it often, is that I studied aerospace engineering. So
You did what?
What else is there? What else is there?
Yeah. So
you just wake up and decide, I'm going to study aerospace engineering tomorrow.
Yeah. So my entire life, I wanted to be a pilot until I became a pilot, flying small aircrafts, and I realized that I didn't really like it as much anymore. I have ADD, and I think that's maybe common with a lot of entrepreneurs. Like, you have to be doing so many things at the same time, like, because your mind is just always going. Yeah, exactly. So for me, sitting down in the aircraft for extended hours, a period of time, just sitting there, I just really couldn't wrap my mind around sitting there for like 12 hours, just like sitting, right? So I loved aircrafts, and I went on to study aerospace engineering to design aircrafts. And in school, this was when Facebook and Twitter just launched, and I was now a part of an entrepreneurship organization. I started my first tech company to allow students to buy and sell items from each other on campus. And we made a few $1,000s, like $3,000 to $5,000 every month from it. Wow. And in college, that's a big deal, right? You making $3,000.
That's a huge deal.
I was broke all the way through school.
Yeah. And so that really set off the domino effect for me within the tech space. Seeing what was happening with Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey, and having that dream for myself as well. It didn't really pan out in that way. But
not yet.
There's still time, and you're still young.
Yeah, exactly. But so many amazing things have happened as a result of having such a big vision for myself and wanting to achieve so much. Yeah.
Beautiful. Greta, what about you? Where did your dream start? Was it something that you always knew, what you do now, the pain points that you solved? Did somebody say, hey, I think you're better over here than over there? What was your story?
I'd say my story started when through college as well. So I'm a software engineer by training, and when I was still in school, I'd say autonomous vehicles were becoming a big topic of discussion, and a big kind of Tesla was popping out. A lot of new technologies was coming out, and had a big passion for robotics, and autonomy in vehicles seemed like a fantastic kind of crossover of the two interests that I had. And so, so while there, there was a big kind of focus on entrepreneurship, very similar, lots of role models in the industry who were, going after really big dreams. And so I started working with a mentor out of university, who's my co-founder now, and we've been working together since about 2010. So I started doing, some of the software development for the automotive industry. So developing these ADAS systems going into our vehicles today, everything from, advanced, cross traffic alerts, all of that, fun features you see in cars today. And that got me really excited about, how do we bring, AI to really improve how the automakers are actually building out technology into the vehicles. And that got that passion started.
Very cool. And I must say, just the fact that you're a woman just makes it even cooler. Normally about the automotive industry and the features, you tend to automatically lean towards it being a man. So I think it's very cool that you're here representing in a space that's automotive, but also artificial intelligence. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. We'd say in the Caribbean, Greta, big up yourself. And I mean, it really is incredible, as Terry said, that you've been able to carve out a niche. There are two things we're going to come back to here. Problem solving that Kyle mentioned, and creating such a unique, special, but valuable niche as you've been able to do. So I want to segue over to Carlton, the guy in that cool burgundy shirt. Share with us, Carlton, where did it start for you? And how did you end up as an engineer for an electric motorcycle racing team? Where does that even begin?
Yeah, two questions. So I've always enjoyed making things. I think that's just been a predisposition of how I grew up. Probably has a lot to do with my dad. Growing up in the Caribbean, there's that time when everybody gets a cricket bat for Christmas or for the birthday. My dad brought me a piece of wood and a saw and was like, I'm going to show you how to make a bat. That was my experience from a very young age. So I'm very used to the idea of creating things, and I'm quite driven by that. So naturally that has taken me down some interesting paths. The electric motorcycle team is kind of a manifestation of that personality type. In terms of Acceleron, the business, that came about simply from probably another aspect of my personality where I like to ask questions. I was that child that every response was why. Legit, every response to
but that's good.
Was why. But I wasn't doing it necessarily because I was trying to be annoying. It was more to do with the fact that I just wanted to understand. So coming back to batteries, I very quickly, it seemed as though with the world transitioning to renewable energy, electric vehicles, mobility, the one thing that was very common in the whole system was the battery system. And the one thing I was reflecting on was that nobody's thinking about batteries in a specific way. Maybe I should do that. And that's how I ended up where I am today.
Niching down. Thank you so very much. I mean, it's always interesting to hear stories, and I think it's so important for our young persons to understand that you may not always have it figured out, but there are cues. There are cues and signposts along the way that kind of helps guide you along your trajectory. So thank you so very much for sharing that. Before we do a deep dive now into our conversation of how do we get more of our young persons to attain this level of accomplishment? This is what we want to have more of our young persons having platforms saying, this is what I've been able to accomplish. So, Raphael, I don't know if you want to go with your first question.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some big problems to address globally, certainly, and even in the unique context that we have in the region, we have some big problems to address. Where do we start? Even in terms of addressing how we teach our children, the kind of questions we allow them to ask, the types of expectations we have of them. So Carlton made a very interesting point. He was that child that always asked that probing question, why? It is that problem-solving mind that is the springboard for the kind of innovation we want to have. The challenging question is our learning environment one that facilitates or allows children or enables children to ask those kind of questions? Or are we just expecting them to repeat something that they've heard and remembered? Do we need to attack this problem or the challenges that we're experiencing from this kind of a foundational level? Perhaps, Bevan, you can share your thoughts on that, but it might also be interesting to get a context from Greta, who outside of the region, on her thoughts on that as well. So go right ahead, Bevan.
Great question, Ralph. Education plays a part not only for the development of our workforce, but creating mindsets. Now, I don't have a problem in terms of education is not, knowledge is not the issue. Perhaps it's how knowledge is shared and how it is brought across our youth of our Caribbean region. How is being taught and for what purpose is being taught? Are we just trying to build persons for the world of work? I don't think we're building enough innovators. So then we have to change our methodology of how we are going to approach learning.
That's good.
Parents can only do so much at home. So therefore, it relies on our education system to pick up the gaps where it misses, right? Now, you might have a few people like ourselves who decides, who are very ambitious, who wants to create great things and to impact our communities. But what happens to the general population who do not have that drive? Where do they going to get it from? Who are they going to seek? So we have to put hubs in place or some sort of mentorship or some sort of program where people could just have a general knowledge of saying, listen, I want to do this. I don't know how, but I could reach out to this person and to find out. Yeah. Got you.
Yeah, that's really good. Greta, feel free to jump right in.
Yeah, and just to go forward from the similar topic, one thing that I found that in some of my institutions that was done well has been exactly what Bevan is suggesting, is merging with the typical curriculum. This focus on entrepreneurship. So focus on getting folks familiar with what it means to start a business, getting that mindset of driving to do something innovative and not being afraid of it, and also the mindset of failure.
Oh, definitely.
That's a big one.
I think in the Caribbean region, I think fear is a sin, apparently. Like, you cannot fail, and if you fail, your life is over. Even in the education system, you go to secondary school, you don't get the amount of subjects that you wanted.
Yes.
Your life is over. Your life is over. No. And in business, being an entrepreneur, failure is a must. I have failed so many times, I can write a book about it. Right? But I think with failure comes with knowledge and experience. And I think you take that to adapt to new changes. You use that to propel you further. Right? I think go ahead.
No, we always say that you actually learn from your failures. It's actually your mistakes that you learn from. But Greta, you're talking about failure. What was your thought? Finish it.
Yeah, no, the thought is exactly what Bevan is suggesting. It's this concept that, in typical school, failure is seen as a problem versus an entrepreneurship. It's actually the propelling factor that makes you get quicker or get to your goal at some point at all. So I think it's a very kind of important combination especially when thinking of changing kind of the dynamics in current education system. Another thing I just wanted to comment on that I really enjoy seeing these days is just proliferation of STEM training, and from a very early age. I think it's fantastic. I see so many, programs these days to get kids generally involved in it, but also to get girls involved in it. And so I think just breaking down these boundaries of what folks think, is allowed or not allowed to do, and just exploring, all sorts of innovation, in different areas, and being okay going into them.
Thank you, ladies. I mean, that definitely is, it's very good, because we've always been saying it, that we're creating persons who are repeating, who go to work for someone else, but not necessarily creating assets that think for themselves and are innovators. I'm going to jump across to Carlton. We got Bevan, who is out there in Grenada. We have Greta in Canada. And then we have Carlton in this very unique position, because he was raised in Barbados. So he has some understanding and experience with, Caribbean. us as a people, our culture, and how that influences how we learn and what we're exposed to. But then he's in the UK and he's managed to travel all around the world. So Carlton, from your lens, from your perspective and your views, where are the deficits on our side? You know, what are the pros? What are the cons? What are we doing right in terms of transformation and entrepreneurship? And what are the things that we're doing wrong or we're not thinking about possibly?
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to the question of what we're doing right or wrong, in my opinion, when it comes to education in the Caribbean. I just wanted to also connect to the point when it comes to failure. You learn a lot more from an activity that did not succeed than an activity that did. So often I tend to see failure not really as failure, just learnings. It's just data. That you get more information from any time something doesn't work. You know, it's okay, well, I did this, and this, and this is the outcome. Whereas sometimes you do something and it succeeds, you have no concept as to what. You can't really extrapolate. You can't repeat it. So you can't even consider whether you actually were contributing to it.
Exactly.
I'm going to take
That's
that,
really good.
put that across the side. Now, in terms of the Caribbean, I think probably the best way to start, because I went to school in Barbados and then went to Trinidad, St. Augustine, best 3 years of my life. That's a whole other conversation. I went
Around
to
February, March, Carlton. Around February, March. I know that was
it
your
was
favorite time.
February or March. It was the whole 3 years. I also went to school in London at Brunel. One thing I would say about the Caribbean, in fairness to us, we punch above our weight when it comes to the education system based on the actual amount of money we have to contribute to education. So we are always, as Caribbean people, very harsh on ourselves, but we actually are doing relatively well when it comes to the global context of education. What I think, though, because everything could do with some improvement, one of the things we do a lot of education on how to learn, how to take information in, how to absorb it. One of the things I think we need to do improvement on is how to think.
Absolutely.
The concept of how to figure out stuff on your own, because there, especially in this market, and Greta could tell you about this, the technology industry, especially hardware and software, it is very hard to teach someone the skills that would be specifically adequate in the next 10 years. But the principles and the concepts by which these things work, and if you understand the thinking and the logic behind it, you will always have
you can solve new problems.
Exactly. And that comes from knowing how to think, not necessarily knowing how to learn.
That's a drop mic moment, by the way. That's a drop mic.
I don't have a mic.
That was heavy. Yeah. That was heavy. And it sort of triggers a number of thoughts in my mind. But I have to ask the question then, is there alignment between how we presently approach learning? Even if I unplug from the matrix of formal education, whether it be primary, secondary, or tertiary, is there a connection where we see the need for us to learn how to think in a problem-solving way versus I just need to accumulate this body of knowledge and it's going to serve me for the rest of my life, which in many cases has been the historical approach. But what Carlton is suggesting for us, which I think is so provocative, is that we need to create an environment. We need in our national messaging to be encouraging persons to fail, to be encouraging persons to think outside of the boundaries, maybe rethink the boundaries altogether, but also to challenge status quos and really examine what is going to be required for us to be innovative world leaders, not now. Because the things we need now were the things that we should have known and developed maybe 5 years ago.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. To Carlton's point, when he said that we actually punch above our weight class, it's actually very true. In terms of when you look at how we even perform across schools in different countries, we do absolutely well. I definitely believe that what we do need to work on, though, is viewing ourselves as world leaders, viewing ourselves as creators and not just consumers, but saying that we can create. And so I'm going to go across to Kyle Maloney, who is extremely young. And Kyle, I want you to break down things for us, because with the pandemic, of course, we're hearing a lot more about digitization, digital transformation. Everything is going digital. Is it a buzzword, even from regional governments and policy? Is it that we like to throw around the terminology digital, but
digitization,
but we have not yet created framework where we can understand how to use the digital, how to use the technology to drive business? What's your experience?
That's a solid question. I think that's a question that I get a lot in terms of, are we doing enough, and what is happening in the region really so that we begin seeing that transformation? I think ultimately there is a generation that has grown up largely with technology, and they're bursting and excited to try new things and come in with new ideas. But there's a layer on the top that is the status quo per se. And unfortunately, there is that disconnect that exists, whereby in many cases, lip service is paid versus actual action is taking place, And so on the rare occasion, you find that person within the top layer that is really a driver for it, and is really trying to immerse themselves within the digital transformation space. But unfortunately, there's only so much someone can do, and so we're not seeing that sort of catalytic effect happening yet, whereby we're seeing investments going into amazing technology companies, or we're seeing major things happening within some of the large companies driving technology and innovation. We're seeing it very separate and disparate versus a very strong focused initiative. Exactly, integrated initiative.
I want to piggyback there, because you raised a triggering question. We've often heard this narrative across the region, especially we don't have an environment that facilitates entrepreneurship and innovation. And we can break that down in terms of policy, regulation, even funding. And you'll often hear Caribbean entrepreneurs say, if I were in the US, or if I were in Canada, I'm going to pull on Greta here, I'd be able to advance so much further and so much more quickly because of access to resources and support. And you've got these big investments. You've got these big venture capital firms and all of this. Since there's a gap there that we need to close, Carlton, I see you smiling. There's a gap there that we need to close. But I am not satisfied that we can just for the next 10 years accept the narrative that we don't have a culture that supports strong entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah,
what do we need to do to start actively bridging that gap? And I want Greta to chime in from the perspective of the kind of infrastructure she's seeing.
Like Carlton is ready.
So I'm going to definitely get Carlton and some of the others to chime in. Bevan, you can as well. And then Greta, from your context in Canada, what are some of the things that you do that are done in Canada, rather, that facilitate that kind of rapid pace of innovation that we need, and inspire young entrepreneurs not to give up and throw their hands in the air and be like, we can't get anywhere in the Caribbean? What are some of the things that we need to look at?
So Carlton.
Sorry,
I'm just going to mention one funny thing, that even in Canada, there's always this narrative of, well, if only we were in the US, it would be easier.
Okay.
The grass is greener. Grass is greener.
Grass is greener.
Well, I don't really hear people in the US saying, if I was only in the Caribbean, so
that's true.
Except for the beaches, right?
The beaches.
For the beaches.
Yeah.
So Carlton, you tell us what your perspective is on that. We need to deal with this narrative in a very frontal sort of way. Where do we go?
So I would actually like Greta to go first so that I can temper my statements.
I don't want your statements tempered. I don't want it tempered.
Right. We actually want you to tell us exactly, what you've experienced, what you see, what can we do? Because we understand that even though we have a lot of young persons who are unemployed, maybe they're at risk, but we know that they're bursting with energy and ideas. But sometimes they really just either don't know where to go, or the actual environment just simply does not exist. So we actually want you to go right ahead and tell us exactly how you feel.
Okay. I'm going to roll back the stage curtain a little bit, just the chaos that happens in the background. Grass is greener is absolutely correct. I'm in London and people here grumble all the time about sweet, sweet California money. I've been to
Silicon
California.
Valley.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been in those meetings, and it is not as simple as that. The money is easier. It comes with some interesting, serious caveats.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful. Like everything is conditional and nothing is free.
True.
So when you hear people getting these big deals, what you should ask yourself is, what did they have to give?
Yeah, major.
People don't talk about that, but like
You got that cut from Bevan over there.
but you don't hear about the trade. You don't hear about the trade at all. The trade is serious. So putting that aside, I think in the Caribbean context, if I were to give some really specific advice,
Please.
entrepreneurs, just start. Honestly, just start. The best thing you can do is learn how to do it, because like it's just a process of learning. You will make mistakes. Actually, learning in the Caribbean is a slightly safer environment where you have a little bit more room to play to learn. When the caveat of going into California and Silicon Valley is that it's a shark tank. It's extremely aggressive and it's very hard to learn in a shark tank. So that's one. The other thing when it comes to the Caribbean is that we need to start focusing on some of the less sexy stuff when it comes to enabling entrepreneurship.
Tell us about it, Carlton.
Need to be a lot more in tune with where the market is globally. It should be faster to set up bank accounts.
Right.
That's the kind of detail.
It should be a lot easier to do import and exports. When I'm at home, it takes me 2 weeks to get something from Amazon.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave that there. Like our logistics process needs to improve, and these are not things that have anything to do with the entrepreneurs directly, but indirectly, it has a significant impact on how you can actually engage and play on the global scale.
Yes.
It is one thing to talk about entrepreneurship and import and export, but if you can't get something shipped to somebody in less than 2 weeks in today's world, you're not in the
business.
game.
You're a non-entity. Absolutely.
Major. So ease of doing business is a huge deal.
That's like my key thing. That's my last rant, because I could do this for days. And it's not that I'm saying that we're not doing. It's not that I'm saying we're not doing a good job, but I think it is easy to get caught up with the sexy stuff when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But it's that non-sexy but absolutely critical stuff that we need to sort. You just can't run an international business if it takes you months to set up bank accounts.
No, absolutely. And you know, on that point,
100%.
I actually want to go across the Bevan. And by the way, Carlton, thank you so very much, because what you're doing is you're actually giving people exact pointers, you know, in terms of not just it being a general conversation, but you're actually giving them examples. But it's something that you said about, you know, us looking at the things that are less sexy, you know, understand globally where we're going, which also means that we need to be in tune with our sustainable development goals, which is another thing that a lot of us talk about. And the world is heading there, but on a very regional level, the thing is, are we there? Bevan, the reason why I'm coming to you is because, especially as we speak about growth, resilience, and recovery after this pandemic, we're still in pandemic, but we're talking post-pandemic. A lot of us have been talking about food security, food nutrition, and it being huge. And Carlton just spoke about being able to set up things within our market that makes us a circular economy, self-sustaining, being able to and move pieces on a board. Let us talk about agriculture, please. And the fact that on a real scale, when you go into some schools now, you have children who don't want to deal with agriculture because it is not sexy. It is not taught in a sexy manner. It is not taught or married to innovation and technology. And yet still food security is a big deal. So tell me, as a woman in agriculture, you know, how does this play out in our space?
It's not sexy at all. Not sexy at all. But Carlton touched on some key points in terms of how, on a Caribbean perspective, what the youth will have to deal with if they want to start a business is difficult. There is no means for them to just get up one morning and say, you know what, I have a great idea. I need some money to get started. Let me go to this person, go to this bank to get that assistance. Nothing of like that. Unless you have some wealthy grandfather or uncles to give you a type of fund, fine. But like me, when I started off, you have to start small. And it's better to start small and fail than you be less debts than you start large and then you have, too much. That's but you have to start. As Carlton said, you have to start, and starting is important. So I urge young people of the Caribbean region, if you have an idea, you have to get it off the ground. Do not keep it. Sometimes we have this fear of, I have an idea, I don't want to share it because someone's going to steal it.
Oh.
No. And then we keep it and then, goes to the wayside.
Scarcity
Start your business. Start your business as small as you can and learn, fail, and grow. Agriculture right now is on everybody's mouth because we know, in terms of, on a Grenada perspective, we have so much import. We have such a high level of unemployment. We have a lot of social issues we have to deal with, and agriculture can actually solve that. The problem is the resources are not getting to the people who it needs to, the farmers. We're the one who have the plants. We are the one who have to actually solve the production. Getting funding for agriculture is, I don't know, better is you might go to a place and dig gold and get gold faster than get an investment for agriculture. That's the situation. And I think that is business across the Caribbean region itself. It's difficult to get that support. As a woman in agriculture, it's even more difficult because the seat as a male-dominated industry. I have had my back with that. And then in terms of getting the children involved, they do not want, because there's a stigma attached. A stigma in Caribbean region tying to slavery. The land that most farmers are planting was attached to plantations with the whole slavery is involved.
Yeah,
parents really want to encourage their children to get to go off and study agriculture because there is no means of supporting yourself sustainably, or at least they don't see it that way. How do we know? Bridge that gap and show them, listen, you can make a decent living, you can be sustainable, you can be independent with agriculture. I think it's a mindset of agriculture is not just farming. Me getting up in the morning, putting on my boots and going to the land and dig a hole and plant it. That's not agriculture. That's not one solution I will give, definitely, we have to build innovation hubs. We have to build some sort of ecosystem where young people can go to get that knowledge, to get that training, but most importantly, to start. You might not have the resources to have a large team, but you might have some business support that can help you pick up the slack where you don't have it. I didn't have that support. I didn't have that support starting off. I started off myself, my father who works with me. But and because of that, I failed several times. Because I'm looking at production, I'm looking at making the businesses, survive. But there are other factors to a business that you have to have, and I didn't have that support.
Right.
So it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Here people on a daily basis. There is no means for them to start a business. There is no. I don't know. It's very frustrating, really, when you hear the people of my country speak, the young people of my country speak, that there is no means for them to get ahead in life. Right. And so we have to change that business environment to encourage innovation and stuff like that.
So to encourage innovation and to also bridge the gap between loans, right? Getting the business, getting the loans, getting the support.
Banking system needs to change. Sorry, Terry. The banking system needs to change the way they do business.
Okay.
Money should be more easily accessible.
Okay.
But from a farmer's perspective, we have a part to play to that, because a lot of times farmers, if they're successful to get in a loan, the default rate for agriculture is very high. So the banks are not going to just give you loans when the industry is not able to see you paying back. So we have to find a way to get the farmers more. What's Carlton? Carlton,
you wanted to add because you
add something.
I will not interject. I will wait.
But I think that is the environment we're in. We have to find some way to, connect the monies with the innovations and to the entrepreneurs to make it easier, more accessible for us.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
I think funding though also has to contemplate the realities of the industry.
Right, correct.
So your approach to funding agriculture can't be the same as your approach to funding a retail establishment like a supermarket that has a quick transactional turnover.
Yeah.
They're pests that affect crops.
Yeah.
We have climate change.
Disasters.
Climate change. Put it on a billboard.
Yeah.
We have climate change that has a significant impact.
Yes, that's
and
true.
our prime minister speaks quite often about contextualizing financing within the parameters of our climate change
Correct.
realities. But I don't want to dive too deep into that, but funding must contemplate the realities of the industry. I think one of the points
Is that what you want to say, Carlton? Is that what you want to say? Because as soon as Raphael was speaking, you kind of went, was that what you wanted to add?
So one thing I've learned, I can keep it real short. The one thing I've learned through the process is that you plan for money. So the idea is that you try to get as far as you can go before you take investment. Once you start taking other people's money, the stakes, the responsibilities, the consequences, it is a very different ball game. So I always get really concerned when people say, if I could just get this money a little bit easier. There's no such thing as easy money. I don't know where we get this concept from. It's just somebody else may have paid for it, but it ain't actually easy money. So, but to kind of bring it back to the entrepreneur's point of view, two things there that you want to build your business as far as you can go before you need external investment, extremely critical. When you start looking at, your cap table and all, who owns the portions of your business, etc., the more you have to borrow from people, the more you've just given away. So that's one thing to note. The other thing to note is that if you're in a market, when you made the point about like the realities of the market, sometimes I like to use the movie Inception. They had a scene where the guy was like, sometimes you need to imagine a bit larger. Sometimes you have to do that. If you want to attract big money, you need to expand that idea. The Caribbean, sorry to say this, is a small market, is an important market, and we punch above our weight. But the Caribbean is still a small market. If you want big things, you need to expand. You are part of the world. There's no reason that your idea needs to be limited to your island.
Correct. Or your region.
You need to dream a little bigger sometimes if you want to get that big money. That's just
Perfectly said. I'm coming to Kyle, but I'm going to pick it back and go to Greta just because there is a connection between what Bevan said and getting to Greta, because we actually touched on it. The fact that, and I'm not sure if you guys are aware of Keithlyn Carew, a young lady out in St. Lucia. She has Helen's Daughter, which is actually set up to promote agriculture, and not only agriculture, but getting the access to training and finances to women in the rural area. And what she said was in St. Lucia, women, and agriculture, they're not taken seriously. And so that also speaks to gender equality or inequality, which is also a part of our SDGs. And so I'm moving across to Greta because I know that Greta was able to get, to win from her competition seed money valued at, I think, $2 million US, was it, Greta?
Correct.
Okay. But the competition was, I think it was
4 females.
or woman only. So it was really geared to trying to find women within this special niche. How big of a role does gender play when it comes to stepping into the areas of innovation and digitization and artificial intelligence? And does investments also run on the same vein in terms of how we see gender?
Yeah, great question. Maybe I'll start by reinforcing some of the points that have been mentioned. So we are a venture capital funded business, but as a lot of the panelists already mentioned, it comes with its own constraints and expectations that are very different from, more a traditionally funded business. And it's not like the one thing I wanted to similarly reinforce, venture capital is not the only way to build your business. And in a lot of ways, it forces you to have a very cutthroat business to get in line with the expectations of the folks that are funding you. So there's a lot of kind of challenges that they get introduced into how you run the business.
Yes.
Of course, it's fun on one hand, and you get to learn a lot of things, but you have to similarly kind of be prepared for that and keep in mind that it's not the only way. Now, kind of to your point around kind of being a female in this, there's a lot of kind of things that are challenging. Of course, venture capital is challenging to attain for female founders generally. So one of the main reasons why, for instance, Microsoft and others are sponsoring a lot of these initiatives to make sure that funding is more equally distributed. But definitely being in venture, technology, and automotive is not the most, forward-looking industries historically in that direction. So it's definitely challenging, but I'd say there's been a lot of push across the industry to give more opportunity for female founders. So I'd say I've been fortunate, of course, to get such support from even some of the capital that I want. The only other thing I wanted to also mention, kind of, especially as we think about venture capital not being the only source of funding, we as a company also don't just rely on venture capital. One thing I found that has really helped us co-innovate in Canada has been government-sponsored kind of initiatives to provide matching funding to certain collaborative engagements between companies in Canada. So, for example, like if a big corporation like a Nissan, like a GM, well, just because I'm in automotive, decides to work with a small startup like us on innovative initiatives, government here actually doubled sometimes the funding that both companies put into that initiative. So then they are that innovation. And I find we've been relying on a lot of those initiatives also, or those opportunities to funnel kind of capital into our innovation to get a product to the market. And that's been extremely helpful.
I think that's a great point, Raphael. I don't know about you, but that's a great point, because I think we know that we need private sector. We need the involvement of private sector, but we can't do it without public sector. They all kind of have to work in tandem towards a particular goal.
Yeah, 100%, Terry. I think because this forum especially has the eyes and ears of several persons across the region who do sit in the decision-making seats, I believe there have been some very, very, very important takeaways that we've extracted. I think Greta has pretty much hit the bell right at the top, and drawn that connection between governments seeing the value in incentivizing the kind of innovation that's required in order to push development forward. Now, I see. I'll just let you go ahead, Carlton.
I want to go to Kyle.
Yes.
You want to add something, Carlton, to what just came off of what Greta said or what Raphael said? Kyle, I'm coming to you. I'm going to have like 5 questions back to back.
I point him at Kyle as well. I'll get back to
Kyle. Okay, all right. Yeah, so Kyle, go ahead. You're pretty much standing on stage at the stadium, and you've got all of your government decision makers, regulators, policy makers, and leaders listening to what this panel has to say. What context do you want to bring to that, Kyle?
Wow.
Wait till Kyle says I finally get a question, and it's like, whoa.
no pressure, right? So all the easy questions, you're panning over there, and you give me the question where in front of all of government across the Caribbean.
All.
So kind of to underscore a lot of the things that you guys have been saying. Within education, we spoke about education, we spoke about the enabling environment, and the fact that, as Carlton rightly said, we're really good at learning, but the real fundamental problem with our education system is that we don't inculcate problem solvers. And so if we had a problem-solving mindset that is inculcated from the time we were kids, it'll make such a massive difference to where we are as adults, right? Because that is what's going on. People are trained to, I am one set thing, and if I can't do this thing, then I am like a fish out of water, right? And so I went to study engineering, and so I can't do marketing because I didn't go to school for that. And there's information everywhere. All All right. And so we live in such a different time compared to our parents' generation, whereby the information is so widely available that whatever you want to focus on, you can become, you know? And so this is what I want to largely communicate. I want to communicate to the governments out there that we need to begin preparing, well, not even the next generation. We need to begin creating opportunities for the people that are here now, and then shifting the dynamic for the next generation such that they become problem solvers. And the generation that is here now, we begin opening doors and opportunities for them to begin plying their skills and their trades on a global scale. Because you are a designer in Trinidad or in Jamaica or in Barbados doesn't mean that you could only look for design work here in Trinidad. You know,
that's good.
Our team, Tech Beach team, is a globally distributed team. On my team, I have a guy that's from the US. He's living in Virgin Islands. I've never met him before, but he's running our accelerator program. I have another guy who's Irish, who moved to Barbados because of the ability to move to Barbados. What is that visa called? I can't remember. What's the visa?
Welcome stamp. The welcome stamp program.
Exactly, right. And so him and his wife to Barbados to chill from Ireland, you know, and hiring him, and now he's on our team. All right. And so we have a very distributed global mindset workforce that we're working with, and this is what is the opportunities that exist right now. And so because we have a really big gap as it relates to opportunities in the mindset of the people here within the region, thinking that I don't have a job here in this country because X, Y, and Z are the factors, and so job levels are low, and so there's little opportunity. There is massive opportunity on a global scale, and we need to begin shifting our mind in that way. Look, Terry is working with an organization in Barbados, working with opportunities in Trinidad and Jamaica. Like, she's all over the place. All over the place. All over.
And what is interesting, Kyle, what is interesting as you spoke about, you know, starting off in one thing or wanting to be one thing. I actually went to school in Cuba and became a veterinarian, which everybody always goes, what? Because I'm a TV presenter and a host. And so to your point, Kyle, a lot of us, even as entrepreneurs, we have to understand that we have to learn how to adjust and adapt, and to understand that we're not necessarily defined by a role or responsibility.
Absolutely.
But really by our mindset and our attitude and our approach to things.
That's
I think
so
that's really what defines entrepreneurs who get success.
Yes.
Right. That was just my little interjection, but you may continue, sir.
No. This was it. This is what I really want to communicate, largely. And so, I don't have anything else. Go ahead.
But to ask you another question, Kyle, because I'm familiar with the Tech Beach brand, I'm familiar with you, Kirk Anthony Hamilton, and there is something that you guys do fundamentally well, and that is you collaborate and you foster relationships. A lot of the times when we speak about digital transformation, entrepreneurship, you know, getting the capital, the investment, the venture capital, a lot of the times people do not speak about the relationships that we foster.
Absolutely.
Finding the right communities that can help to point you in the right directions, asking questions because you know you do not have all the right answers, and then being okay with collaborating. Can you just touch on that in terms of how those things have helped you grow this brand, and that you can sit here and now say we have people working all over the world, but we're still working towards one goal?
Wow, look at you. I need you on my team. Listen, after this, we go talk.
We'll talk. Talk about it. Collaboration, networking, fostering relationships.
So to kind of go back to the first point of failure. The first point of failure. Me coming in and starting Tech Beach with Kirk. Kirk is my Jamaican co-founder. Kirk and I founded Tech Beach. Actually, we had our first Tech Beach community event without ever meeting each other. We met each other on the week of actually going to set up the event, you know? And for the year that we were planning, we didn't actually physically interact with each other, you know? And so our entire business is built on that sort of distributed workforce and operating virtually and just delivering outcomes independent of having to physically be there with anyone. And this opportunity for Tech Beach, seeing that we need to connect our region with more of the global ecosystems of the world. came because I failed massively. It was my biggest failure ever. And I think as entrepreneurs we could compare failures. You know, we could say, well, well, I could see your failure and raise you a little bit. You know, so I'm in my other company, we managed to raise about $2 million for 25% investment in the company, and that managed to not pan out, but then created a pathway for me to start Tech Beach, and Tech Beach to date has been my biggest success. And so when you're, I want to communicate that to people and entrepreneurs. When you think you're at your lowest point, you're actually at your highest opportunity.
Come on now, Kyle. Come on now.
All right,
yes.
Sorry. I can drop the mic.
Drop your mic, Kyle.
When you're at your lowest point, you're actually at your highest point of opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so,
major.
so for me, that is exactly what happened. Where that company really was one of my biggest, actually my biggest failure to date, led me to having my biggest success company to date. And with Tech Beach, we're really focused on that network effect, as Terry highlighted, connecting the ecosystems that exist in the US to connect us in the region, and building those network effects so that we can begin seeing opportunities for companies to raise capital, for companies like Carlton's company to have good advisors from amazing companies in the world, Bevan to be able to have advisors from some of the top companies. And so some really good examples that we have are like a company called Rome. They're a travel company. It's being advised by one of my really good friends who works at Airbnb. She's a global head of programs at Airbnb. And so these opportunities to connect with some of the most amazing talent with people in the region is what we're fostering with Tech Beach.
Great.
Makes sense. It's a collaboration. I think that is a huge part. I mean, at the beginning when we said we're going to have this discussion, I really said that because it's so dynamic, I just didn't think we had enough time to really get into all of the things. But I think what we want to show are the possibilities. We want to show that the possibility exists, that you can be what you want to be. Right. You can network, you can collaborate, but it is important for us to respect the fact that we have sustainable development goals. We want gender equality. We want renewable energy, which I haven't even touched on with Carlton, the fact that is massive. Climate change, natural disasters, us being vulnerable, and not having more people within our region even consider renewable energy, alternative energy, and how that could be something.
Absolutely.
It's a framework, but Raphael, I will leave it to you if you'd like to get the closing remarks from our panelists.
Yeah, this has been an extremely valuable few minutes we've spent together. I really think this could be an all-day event, and we'd still have so much to talk about. I want to thank all of our panelists for the tremendous contributions. And I want to invite you just very quickly to give your closing comments and thoughts. Carlton, I'm going to lead with you, and then for all the other panelists, any final thoughts you want to leave, not just with Terry and I, or with all the region that might be watching, but especially because we've got some very important eyes and ears on this panel. And we're hoping that this helps to move some wheels forward as we seek to advance regional development. So Carlton, you go right ahead, and then across the panel, we're going to bring this home.
And don't forget your point, Carlton, because we know that you had a point.
I don't forget.
Nice.
So, concentrating it real quick. Kyle, you made a really good point when it comes to the whole networking and getting that really valuable mentorship for people. Yeah. I have two key points that I would kind of leave the audience with. One, for entrepreneurs in the audience, I think one key thing that I think is really important for Caribbean people: structure your business the way you think about it, the way you develop it for the international stage. We need to stop this conversation about Caribbean businesses. We are playing on a global stage. We need to start giving like that.
Word.
Two, policymakers. The job of government policymakers is often to guide and foster. If you want to know how to help those people, get them mechanisms to show them what good looks like. That's where collaborating with people who can provide that guidance, that mentorship, innovation hubs, grants, co-funding programs. These people don't necessarily need to be told what to do. They just need a little bit of an idea as to what good looks like.
Yes.
That's my point.
Excellent. Greta Kutelenko over in Canada. Any final thoughts for us?
Yeah, just my hope is that this kind of this discussion highlights just how many possibilities there are to be an entrepreneur, how to be an entrepreneur, how to approach it, and that encourages folks to try it out and go into this. And especially, I think, kind of for communities, just fostering this, or leveraging entrepreneurship to foster this growth across communities and learning in an accelerated way without necessarily just relying on education, and furthering economies through this kind of natural innovation. I think that's something we should all strive for.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much. Carl, I'm going to close with you because you're the guy with the big points. So
don't forget Devon. I don't forget Devon.
Absolutely.
Devon, I got you.
Yeah, Bevan over in Grenada. Any final thoughts for us as we bring our panel to a close?
I just want to say this. Innovation stems from ideas. Big, bold ideas.
Yes.
Youth of the Caribbean, think big. Don't settle for less. Work hard. Education is key. Start small. Try to get a mentor. Although people say getting a mentor is difficult. You don't have to speak to the person. My mentor is David Mullins from Jamaica. I have never met him. Look a few times over LinkedIn, and that's my mentor.
There you go.
And so, don't give up. We live in a very frustrated time right now, and I sense the frustration because I face that on a daily basis. But keep your goals in line, and as I said, think big, out of the box, and be as innovative as you can. Be a disruptor of any industry that you enter, and definitely we will succeed.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah. If I'm speaking specifically to the youth, I wanna drive home the point of the biggest differentiator between a really smart guy in my class and myself is just the willingness to think really big, the willingness to think just beyond yourself, because is something that my dad really just drove into me to say that why not? Why not you? Why not you to be this amazing person that adds value in this way and delivers value in this way? Why not you? And I think too many times that we tend to place ourselves in such a limiting box because we come from X circumstance or X environment or whatever the case is. And what the major real difference is between yourself and that person who was able to achieve is that vision that they have for themselves and that grit, that willingness to just never give up. You take those punches and you keep pushing through, because as we said in the start of this, the greatest learnings don't come from your success. The greatest learnings come from your failures.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my.
Oh man. Power packed.
Listen.
Power packed.
Listen. If I could sum this up, and I really do have to appreciate the fact that you guys were able to give very direct and succinct answers to a very large topic, but really and truly we're looking at it twofold, because we're saying as individuals we have responsibilities to ourselves, to think big, to stop playing small, to collaborate, and to try to pull strengths and pool strengths between each other, because we are in fact stronger together. But certainly we have to look at the infrastructure, the framework, the systems, and the policies that have to be put in place in order to get the best out of not only our young persons, but even people who are right now transitioning, and having to learn. But I think I've learned quite a lot, and I've taken away a lot. Raphael, what about you?
I certainly have. I've made my notes, and I'm sure that there are going to be many persons after a discussion like this who are just overflowing with questions and comments. And so we're going to dedicate some time just after this to explore some of those questions and comments, get feedback and so on. We love your engagement. We've really been enjoying spending this time, certainly with all of our panelists and with all of you out there in the audience across the globe participating in this forum this morning. It's been our pleasure to spend some time with you, panelists. Thanks so much for joining us. And hang tight, because we're going to jump into our Q&A segment in a few seconds.
Get ready. These questions are coming in fast and furious. We know you're ready. We know you're ready, guys.
A really tremendous session of engagement we had with persons who can only be described, Terry, as phenomenal regional leaders. I'm not even going to say future leaders. I'm going to say people who have the ideas, they have the sort of energy that we need to really drive our region forward. And we're going to get to those questions in a few because we've been overwhelmed by your comments, by your feedback, by your engagement. It's been exciting for me to see, Terry. What about you?
Absolutely. The chat section is going crazy. But when you see what we're breaking it for, you will totally understand. Now we will hear from youths across the CDB's 19 BMCs. And what this really is a call to action on innovation and sustainable development. Everything that you see, everything that you hear was produced by and features Caribbean youth. And they're there not just to show diversity, but to lend their voices to let you know what their observations are, what they feel, what are their recommendations, with the hope that they will be heard. This is the call to action. Listen.
These verses swirl with youth voices I have heard. They are breaths that are Caribbean born. The ability to hear is a gift given. So listen.
As the pandemic reigned, it proved that the paint is not waterproof. Problematic strains of past pain started pushing through. With climate change, poverty, and crime, youth will often find rage to express the harshest truths. We have approved the sustenance of silenced youth. So listen.
As 60% of our region's citizenry, do you know our reality?
22%. That's how many youths are significantly affected by poverty.
25%. That's how many youths are unemployed with fewer vacancies to transform their dreams into reality.
So, as we join to discuss our future, we want you to ensure the remedies we prescribe foster equal opportunity no matter our geography, gender, education, or bodily ability.
In case you didn't hear or see, the future is in the voices of those who speak, so listen. When a youth opens mouth, there is a vortex that glistens with hope. It is a scope on possibilities, a spout of rapidly transforming realities. But when doubt becomes the major force, then the system shuts down the vortex by cautioning innovative dreams with bureaucracy and outdated policies. Many youth pause or pivot their cause.
Someone start up a startup for Caribbean thinkers to spark up their potential into fire. Stop treating a 9-to-5 as the peak to which a youth coming out of school could aspire to. There is a fire tool in indigenous creativity, and at times, no need for a university degree, so leaders decree the enabling environment for such opportunity to be viable, where we revise intelligence to include dexterous hands, whether covered in craft or grease. Even if scrolling through TikTok is your niche, too many calls to unlearn. It's time to unteach and consider who exactly the policies are targeted to reach. This is not the regular flu of complaint.
This is a contagious cry, and it will change.
Do you know us? We are trailblazers and in-the-trenches workers, giving our all to the sustainable development of our nations.
Can you see us? We are invested. We are ready to fight against social, environmental, and economic impediments.
Can you hear us? Now more than ever, we need to innovate, diversify, and digitalize our economies so that this and future generations can access opportunities, clean energy, food security, and technology, whether we live in indigenous communities or in the city.
Are you listening? We are not begging for a handout. we are asking to stand out. So listen.
Allow us to grow before we grow old here. Allow us to repay student debts before we grow gray here. Allow us to access assets to own before we grow frail here.
Give us a fair part of the playing field so we could sow here, grow here, reap here, and be here.
We want to live in a region where our lifespan is not determined by our address. We want to boldly prioritize health and mental wellness.
We want peace and peace of mind, knowing that when we wake, we have dreams to chase.
Within all of us is the power to innovate and instigate solutions to our problems, leading transformational change in our society.
The earlier we are exposed to innovation, the more likely we are to create our own solutions, which will have major economic, cultural, and social impacts in the region. So, let's work together to ensure education for innovation and innovation for education.
Create a dedicated fund for innovation and ensure safe spaces where we're comfortable to speak up, no matter how unconventional our creations.
Ensure we are all equipped with the toolkits and recognized qualifications to drive change more efficiently, no matter our chosen occupation.
And lastly, don't wait until there is international acclamation to celebrate those who work tirelessly to create solutions. Recognition and representation allow future generations to have bold aspirations.
As social actors, leaders, policymakers, development stakeholders, we call on you to create the frameworks and policies that ensure inclusion and cater to our diverse intersectional realities.
To reinforce the importance of decent work, our social protection, and the preservation of our rights.
So disenfranchisement will be a thing of the past, and prosperity will light our future path.
We want access.
We want change.
We want action.
So listen.
The sound of prosperity has a Caribbean rhythm. Move with it. It is full of youthful pride. So listen.
We want access. We want change. And we want you to listen. I don't know if there's any other more succinct but powerful way our youth could have captured our heart and intent. Terry?
Let me tell you something. I saw a comment from Paul Massey saying the power of the spoken word. For all of you, the viewers who watched that, it was absolutely palpable. You got goosebumps.
Chilling.
Understand, describe, use one word, drop it in the chat. Let us know how that CTA made you feel. They spoke about fair access, allocation, equity, equality, inclusion. Young people want to be heard. They want to be taken seriously. They want to be included, not tolerated. My goodness.
Absolutely. We want a seat at the table and an affirmation from our leaders that being born on a small island does not limit our capacity. We might be from a small island, small countries, small territories, but we can still have big and global dreams. And we want to have an environment that enables that.
Absolutely. And we just want to acknowledge all of those youngsters. Again, everything that you saw was produced by youngsters because it is important to the CDB for them to, of course, have a seat at the table and to be a part of everything that we're discussing right now. So to the youth with the disabilities, the indigenous youth, the young leaders, the artists, scientists, innovators, entrepreneurs, thank you for lending your voices. Absolutely powerful. And we really do appreciate that contribution. We look forward to seeing more from you. So delivering the response, we just heard the call to action from our youth across the Caribbean. So now delivering the response to the call to action, we welcome the Vice President Operations of the Caribbean Development Bank, Mr. Isaac Solomon, who provides leadership and direction to the Economics and Projects Departments and the Corporate Strategy Division. Please welcome him to the virtual stage.
Today, I stand in awe at the positive contributions, the determination, optimism, fresh ideas, and a willingness to take risks by the youth who participated in this forum focused on youth and innovations imperatives. The CDB has an abundance of faith in the young people of our region. Where others see risk, we see innovation, creativity, and non-linear thinking. Where others hear noise, we hear a yearning to make a difference, sometimes with a hint of skepticism about whether anything will really change. We do not share the negative stereotypes of young people that are frequently bandied about and which unfortunately inform interactions with them. We do not harbor any semblance of acceptance for the behavioral scientists dubbing of today's youth as Generation Me. On the contrary, we believe that many leaders have not developed a sufficient understanding of how today's youth function in an ecosystem distinctly different from the landscape of the past. Young people constantly remind us that we need to embrace the fact that many tried and tested practices of the past are actually losing their relevance. In the forum today, we were gifted with boundless energy, optimism, passion, hope, and a determination not to become images of the blunted dreams of the past. The voices were clear, and the messages were powerful. And it is evident that the region's young men and women are not just interested in contributing to their own success, but are either actively engaged or eager to be involved in the resilience building and the sustainable development and prosperity of the Caribbean. However, while many of our youth are self-driven, their success in innovative pursuits is often dependent on the contributions and investments of governments, private sector, civil society, and development organizations like the Caribbean Development Bank. Indeed, we have just heard the impassioned and strident call from a diverse group of youngsters, including indigenous youth, youth with disabilities, young innovators, and young leaders. It is now up to us to coalesce around our young people by giving them the time, place, space, and support to contribute meaningfully to development. This is a call for us as policymakers and development practitioners to put our money where it counts and provide the architecture for innovation, starting with the re-engineering of education so that it is an experience which excites the creative energies of all learners. We have heard. This is a call to provide the enabling environment for nurturing innovation and co-creation, such as access to startup financing and capital, coaching, and market promotion. We have heard. This is a call to provide the technology that both supports innovation and is itself the target of innovation and disrupts the status quo. Of course, we have heard. This is a call to free our young people from the limitations of archaic notions of productive work and these restrictions experienced by persons with disabilities. We have heard. The bank therefore commits to accelerating its prioritization of the region's youth, and through our youth policy and strategy, CDB will continue to listen actively, and we will increase our focus and financing on innovation. Specifically, CDB will provide funding and technical support to empower youth to explore innovative ideas to tackle development challenges, provide youth with the tools to build and engage in impactful endeavors, and promote continual dialogue between youth and other key stakeholders regionally and globally as they work to reshape a more prosperous region. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to respond to the brilliance we heard today. The future looks bright. I wish all of you the very best.
Well, thank you. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Isaac Solomon, VP Operations at the Caribbean Development Bank. really a special response to what has been a moving and impactful call to action, and even more holistically, a real deep analysis by all of our panelists who are now very excitedly joining us back on stage.
Right. And you know, it's funny, Raphael, I mean, you listen to the call to action and you listen to the response to the call to action, and you realize that there's a theme. You know, they're asking that there be nonlinear thinking, that we re-engineer how we educate our youngsters, and that we should really take the time to understand them. Don't label them as this lazy, entitled generation. They're actually saying we want to be a part of the sustainability and the development within our communities. Fantastic, fantastic.
I actually love the point that he made just before we move on, when he said that we have to dismantle this narrative of negativity concerning our youth, their identity, their mindset, their vision and perspective. And that opens the door for us to really maximize the benefit of their contributions.
Absolutely. So, of course, we've seen the comments. You know, as soon as we had the panel discussion, we saw the comments, we saw the questions, and so we're going to jump into it and we're going to get to it. So, Raphael, I don't know if you want to talk about the first one. I know from the Attention Hub, you know, Vanessa Williams, she says she totally agrees. Youth need mentors and opportunities to grow professionally. We need to equip them with the critical thinking skills early. So thank you very much, Vanessa, for that.
Another comment that I saw on YouTube, this is an important conversation, especially in light of the challenges associated with COVID. Innovation, logical approaches, and problem solving. That's the type of thinking that's going to drive small countries and economies. So really rich contributions from those who would have been attending and viewing and participating, Terry.
Absolutely. So one of the questions, and you guys would have to pardon us because we're going through the questions as quickly as we can. We had a question from, I think it was Timo. Let me see, Shamar Ward. Is there one thing you could tell a striving innovator in today's climate, COVID and other factors, what would it be? So if there's one thing you could tell our innovators at different stages and phases, going through the pandemic, you know, what is that one thing you tell them? And anyone can jump out and take that question. Don't you all go at once?
I mean, I can probably start it. I think study the course is probably one thing that's really useful given the COVID pandemic. A lot of people are anxious and uneasy about what the future looks like. I think it is one of those scenarios where you just need to focus on what is directly in front of you and just manage that. Is a little bit of a tactic that even using I think trauma surgery, etc. If a lot is going on, you want to make sure you don't take everything in because it will overwhelm you. Focus on the things that are right in front of you, manage those things, get those things done well, take care of yourself, take care of your health, take care of the people around you.
Thank
Excellent.
You. Thank you. Anyone wants to add to what Carlton just said in terms of one thing, Greta?
I would say maybe just to add on is just keep that North Star in mind to continue keeping yourself motivated to you know get through, keep that vision in mind so that you know everything else doesn't seem as overwhelming, and you know that there's a purpose you're striving towards. And I think that it's at least something that can keep you going.
Absolutely. Thank you. Raphael?
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks so much, Greta. A question from Carlos, and I'm going to take the liberty to direct this question to both Carlton and Bevan. How can Caribbean countries approach alternative energy technology now as opposed to later? Of course, we have countries that are setting big goals, going fully renewable by 2030. 2030 is around the corner.
Right.
You know, how can countries approach alternative energy technology now, as opposed to thinking about it in the postscript?
I'm trying to catch up.
So, Carlton, since you spoke just now, I'll perhaps go to Bevan first, because she's also in sustainability, and then I'll come back to you, Carlton.
I think we have to look at what would benefit the Caribbean region, first and foremost. We have to build the infrastructure first. We have to build the facilities to get these innovations in place. Implementation of them is the hardest part. Once we have the policies, we can now put things in place. We have the funding, we can achieve great things. for me, on agriculture standpoint, as we try to build sustainable farms across the Caribbean region, what I do, I normally start small, go into the rural communities, get land, and start small operations and build that. If that concept can be adapted throughout, we will have great success.
Carlton?
Excellent. Carlton.
Yeah, I had to roll up my sleeve for this one. There are a lot of things that could be said, but just to keep it short and succinct, I think we need to focus on the technologies that we know work. There's always this conversation and people get really excited about some of the blue sky stuff. Start with a solid foundation of technology that we know works. Use the world as a case study, and just as Bevan was saying, choose things that work for us. We also
Absolutely.
of copying things word for word from other countries and other markets. More use them like the ice cream parlor, and you try the flavors that you actually want to have in your ice cream. That's one thing I would say when it comes to alternative energy. There are lots of things that already work. Choose the things that work for us.
That's fantastic.
Top tier.
A question for Kyle is, having had so many different persons all over the world, and everyone is speaking about remote work. Where do persons with disabilities fit in? And I suppose what it's saying is, typically, and I don't know about all of the Caribbean islands, but we don't necessarily even see within the infrastructure where persons with disabilities are facilitated within the society. Is it that now with a pandemic, there's remote working, that persons who may have disabilities, do you think there'll be more inclusion? And even as an entrepreneur, how do you deal with persons with disabilities in terms of hiring or collaborating? You're on mute.
Happens to all of us in this virtual world.
I think that's the most popular statement that's said. Yeah. I think that question is a really good one. We don't think, unfortunately, or place ourselves in the shoes of others enough. And so we kind of unfortunately tend to overlook people with disabilities. And when we say disabilities come in so many broader ranges and forms, right? So when you say disabilities, it's not like one thing comes to mind. There's so many different types. But I think definitely as we push forward to a very strong virtual world, there exist significant opportunities for a good portion of people with various types of disabilities to operate and generate significant income without having to leave the comfort of their home and their protected environment, And so I think this brave new world that has been thrusted upon many organizations that have been sort of very slow to make these transitions forward, provide new significant opportunities for people that struggle in that way. And I actually I'm bullish on seeing entrepreneurs rise, and some entrepreneur with disability rise up to be able to speak for that segment,
Representation.
Exactly. Representation matters significantly. And nothing is better than someone who understands the plight to be able to create products and solutions specifically for that segment. And I am excited to be able to see who rises up, and I'll be one to support. So take that as my vote of confidence. You can definitely reach out to me if you're within that space and working on solutions, technologies, business within that space. I'll be always available to mentor, speak to, do whatever it takes,
Thank you, Kyle.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for your leadership on that, Kyle. A question that's come in on YouTube, my second last one. The question addresses the issue of education. What degree of change needs to be implemented within the schools to foster the kind of change of mindset that drives innovation, as we've spoken about? The question goes on to ask, at what stage should we start? Now, I think the answer to the second part is probably easy: as soon as possible, as early as possible. But the first part, I think, is one I'd like to engage perhaps Carlton on, because I know this is something very close and dear to Carlton's heart. This issue of what degree of change needs to be applied or implemented within our schools to drive this kind of problem-solving, questioning, curious mind that leads to innovation.
Well, I would be cautious to say change because that sounds like a demolition endeavor. I think we got a pretty good platform right now. We've done a really great job, as I've mentioned, at teaching people how to learn. It is fostering the collaboration. I think that's one thing that is missed a lot in schools and education. The kind of projects that people don't enjoy, but they reflect life a lot more. The group projects and learning how to negotiate with various people in your group to get stuff done. That's just life. And getting more of that involved, getting more of that presentation activity, I think that's a really big one as well. It is really important to be able to present yourself and articulate your ideas. And I think giving people more opportunity to do that a lot earlier would be great, because children love to put themselves on a stage at a very young age. Somehow we put them in this environment and we stifle that. But it is there. It's just a case of encouraging it and bringing it out and allowing people to do that and providing tools to help them articulate different things in different ways. So my point is a meander just to say that I think we really need to add some stuff to what we do, particularly when it comes to that human connection, collaboration, presentation, articulation of our ideas.
I will piggyback on that. Excellent point, Carlton, because we're really talking about curriculum and re-engineering education. Very good point, because there's another question on one of the other platforms, and I'm going to give it to Bevan right on the heel of Carlton, and it is, it was an address that the Honorable Mayor Motley made, speaking about the importance of agriculture and tourism. Right. How do we now, in that particular sector, inculcate interest, curiosity, and pride when there is so much stigma in that industry? And that's, of course, for any youngster who is interested in stepping into the agricultural industry.
First off, great question. First off, I think agriculture needs to be presented as something beautiful.
Yes.
That's how I saw it. My father, yes, he was dabbed with the mud and everything, but I saw the produce what came home that my mother had to prepare. Beautiful, succulent, rich colors.
Juice.
That's what, that's what agriculture I grew up with. So on an education standpoint, that is what needs to be taught. The students need to see the beauty in agriculture. Toss in the nanotechnology. Toss in the protein engineering. Make the nutrient cycle so vibrant that they are willing and thirsty to learn. That is only how we can see strive and progress in the agriculture industry. We need to encourage them to take more opportunities in the sector. Ways that we can link, the Caribbean region is vastly tourism driven, but there's agritourism. We can create products from agriculture that can fill that sector, right? But we need innovation, and it comes from the mindset. And we need our parents, we need the guidance from the teachers to really instill and drive that, because it's a social call. As a company, we are profit driven, but we have a social mandate to ensure that our youths, the future generation that is coming up, are able to build something they can live on, and agriculture is it.
Oh, so good.
I'm very biased. And
it's okay to be. It's okay to be.
As you should be. Thank you so much for that, Bevan. Big believer, especially as it relates to contributing to this big goal of addressing food security for us. Big box that we need to check across the region. My last question, it really is a combination of a number of comments and queries that we've received across platforms, and it has to do with this idea of incubators. Kyle, I know this is close to your heart. But I want to get Greta's input on this as well. As it relates to building a strong culture of incubators, not just can we get some seed funding over here, please, but incubators for our small and medium enterprises. What is your heart for that? And what can we do to create a more enabling environment for that? Kyle and Greta, you can both take that one.
Yeah, my perspective of this is for sure you need some of those incubators. I think it's a fantastic way to get more people experiencing and understanding what entrepreneurship is about, kind of getting some of that additional education or guidelines from kind of what needs to happen in order to start that business. And also getting exposure very early on to other entrepreneurs and kind of set of mentors. People who join those accelerators and incubators have either ran their businesses in the past or have a lot of expertise, and you can really leverage that. So I'd say that's a very important component into getting folks exposed to what entrepreneurship is and getting kind of ready to dive in, let's say, into that journey. I think a lot of those kind of initiatives are popping up, and the more the better in my view.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think the ease of doing business, unfortunately, in our region is really difficult. And these incubators and accelerators, much like my own TBR lab, shameless plug.
Well played.
bring a lot of the pieces together for the entrepreneur that they a lot of times struggle to get, right? So and mentorship, unfortunately, as well in our region tends to not occur because I don't know why, but when you feel like you've made it in life, you kind of want to be with the people that made it in life. And you don't really want to look back and say, all right, so let me see who I can bring along, It's unfortunately. But from my experience, having spent a lot of time within Silicon Valley over the last 5 years building Tech Beach, the sorts of openness that people embrace you with, that I was able to meet like the CEO of Twitter in a coffee shop, Jack Dorsey, and have him come to Tech Beach on its second year because I told him we're trying to build. Really just opened my mind and my heart and my everything to being like, listen, we need to operate with a totally flat sort of mentality that just because you are the CEO and you're a multi-billionaire of a public company doesn't mean that you can't meet a guy in a coffee shop and having a meeting and having really good ideas and being a part of something that could be the next biggest thing, supporting a community that is that has less and doesn't have those same types of opportunities in that way. And so taking that mentality and having that experience, I wanted to kind of bring each of those pieces together so that more entrepreneurs within our region can begin having those types of experiences and having that sort of catalytic effect for growth.
Yeah.
So good.
I just want to come through the screen and just pop your collar, just pop your collar. So that's actually absolutely brilliant. And I think more importantly, what you're really also saying is that we can't just be talkers, we have to be doers. So there's a lot of PR, there's a lot of PR and corporate communications that tells you what these different organizations and companies do when they really don't. So what you are really saying, Kyle, is that you actually have to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Listen, flat mentality. Thank you so very much. I mean, I really want to squeeze in one final question for Carlton because we have a lot of innovators and entrepreneurs who don't know anything about protecting their intellectual property, patenting, trademarking. We're talking about creating all of these solutions. And we want to get our businesses out. We want to be sustainable, but a lot of the times we do not do the right things to actually protect our things. But then maybe that's for another conversation, Carlton, unless you can tell me that in like a minute, unless you can give me an answer now.
Yeah, definitely. Just had to check if it was on mute, actually. Basically, I think we often get caught up and so concerned about people stealing the ideas that we don't want to have the conversation with people. I am always pro on sharing with people that you think can help you or give advice or feedback what your idea is. Once you have that idea manifested on paper, a document that's very articulate, that is the stage when you need to start having a conversation about intellectual property. If it's a physical product, that's a patent. If it is a brand or design, that's a trademark. But when you're at that ideation stage, don't allow the concept of IP protection to inhibit you from growing the idea. You want to first have those conversations, get that feedback, and then develop it into something.
Oh, well, so good.
Well,
So
listen,
good.
this is the kind of conversation and the kind of panelists that we could sit on and talk to, and I'm sure the comments are coming and people agree. Bevan, Greta, Carlton, Kyle, from Trinidad to Grenada to Canada to UK. Listen, we want to thank you because this was just the perfect way to continue from the CTA, which is diversity, getting different perspectives and offering advice, tangible advice that our viewers at whatever stage or phase in their life can actually hold and apply and build and grow. Raphael, what do you think?
Oh, amazing. I don't think we could have had a better assembly of professionals, of young innovators, of brilliant and fresh and creative minds really weighing down and weighing in on what is going to be most valuable for us as a group, as a people, as a region, as a global community to really drive forward and achieve the level of progress that we want. Panelists, from the bottom of my heart, this was so good.
Thank you. And to our audience,
Thank you.
we thank you so very much for your participation, for asking the questions, and for being a part of the engagement for this entire seminar. So thank you so very much again, guys. Thank you for your time. And so we're going to segue out of the question and answer segment. And you've seen how the CDB has done a great job of integrating our spoken word and our talents and our young persons and our panelists. Well, you can expect to get some more. It is such a pleasure to introduce video presentations by Khadija Holiday, 19-year-old, born Grenadian, raised in St. Lucia, winner of the 15 to 19 category in the CDB VYBZING Spoken Word competition. And she'll be followed by Liana Green, only 12 years old, out of Montreal, winner of the 10 to 14 category. And we certainly look forward to those video presentations. And then we'll come back to close things out. Watch this.
I think that when we think innovate, our brains zoom in quickly on a screen's display or the click, click, click that a keypad makes, or maybe robots and machines in a dystopian age. I think that when we say innovation, in all truth, we say it just to give our presentations a little bit of spice and some sophistication. Other than that, we just ditch the definition. Don't you think? We're overdue for innovating. I mean, look at our school system. It's out here reproducing. Kids who hate school but forget that they love learning. An unfortunate result of outdated educating, but an obvious one of a lack of facilitating to an age of students not like the ones we're used to raising. So pause. Let's consider truly innovating. Let's pick apart our schools and decipher what needs editing. Let's pick apart a change, roll the dice for innovating. We need learning disorder specialists in educational facilities, observing and engaging, capable of diagnosing dyslexia, APD, dysgraphia, etc., and post-diagnosis strategies following any new discoveries. We cannot think solution without sustainability. We need child neglect training for standard teaching faculty, abuse signs, trauma tells, domestic instability. I mean, we live in the Caribbean, so we're familiar with all of these. Thus, we need to have procedures, proper systems in their entirety. You can't force feed math when a child is lacking safety. You can't force kids to add whilst they're multiplying in poverty. And mental health, ironically, is often a casualty. Students learn nothing about it until decades later in therapy. Mental health days should be added to the school calendar to protect our students' psyches, to ensure that they stay healthy. See, we don't live in scholastic bubbles. That is just the reality. Well-being over class ranking, it's time to educate responsibly. And we need dynamic classroom settings, classrooms that switch up frequently. I mean, why keep kids indoors when we can learn amidst scenery? Why not take a physics class to a research lab or a factory, apply Newton's laws not on notebooks, but on actual machinery? And of course, with technology, there is endless possibility. Simulated graphs, self-correcting exams, sites that generate citations instantly, Zoom, Moodle, YouTube, Google Classroom, Khan Academy. All you need is a screen now and internet accessibility. Location means far less than it used to. So even though they call us a third world country, opportunity for innovation is too plenty for that to be our identity.
How can education help us build innovative skills, you ask? Well, let me tell you. Our Caribbean is home to the most beautiful places in the world, home to many boys and girls. So, show us how to use our natural resources to be creative. If you show us how to be free thinkers, we just might be problem solvers. Change the syllabus to make it more exciting and fun. We'll add a few trips and practical experiences for everyone. bring on the projects and experiments to stimulate our minds and stop talking and talking like a boring documentary and rewind. In the 21st century, it's all about technology. So why can't we have IT classes that actually show us how to create and let our imaginations run wild? You might be interested to learn that you'll capture our attention as education teaches us innovation. I wish that school could be more than just good grades, because every child can't get all A's. I would love a world where education teaches us how to be independent and gives us space and time to grow. A world where teachers listen and realize they don't always know.
Listen, I was just listening to Liana a while ago, and I was looking at the comments. There's a comment from Sheldon Marshall who said, I would love to see a discussion similar to this for a younger group to see all this from their perspective, which really is the heel of seeing Holiday, who went first, and of course Liana, who came right after. I'm just so happy CDB even had this kind of competition to unearth this kind of talent.
Absolutely. There was something that Liana said right there at the end. She wants that, I'm paraphrasing here, education drives towards independence. Yeah. So many of our countries, we're legally independent, we're independent by constitution, but in so many ways, what we inculcate is that mindset and culture of dependence. Absolutely. And innovation requires that we think independently and seek to create that world that we want to see in the future. Terry, to bring this all to a close, we're going to be joined by Daniel Best, Director of Projects right here at the Caribbean Development Bank. So excited that we're going to be having him on to help us close the curtain on what has been a high energy, exciting, impactful youth forum. I mean, this has been a youth forum, I think, unlike any other. So we're being joined by Daniel now. A wonderful good morning to you, Mr. Best.
Looking his best.
Looking his best, for sure. Sharp enough to give you a slice.
Thank you so much, Rafael. Thank you so much, Terry Carell. So this may be a bit self-indulgent, but I really want to begin my remarks by commending the CDB for organizing and hosting such an impressive youth forum on the occasion of its 51st annual Board of Governors meeting. Although we did not get to meet in person, the engagement, interaction, and analytical depth of this youth forum were remarkably high level. Indeed, meeting in this blended environment allowed for an expansion of the space for dialogue as an organization. And as an organization, we see the potential for further engagement and greater diversity when we do this again. To our spoken word creatives. Yes. With your strong and poignant words, you delivered a message that will resonate across this region today, tomorrow, and well into the future. I can't wait to see what you write next, what you say next, to move us to transform our education systems. I'm quite certain I speak for all gathered when I say that you have made us tremendously proud this day. Madam Vice President, in your usual eloquent style and professional delivery, your remarks were timely in highlighting the various shortcomings in the region's provision of education services and support to our young innovators and entrepreneurs, particularly the most vulnerable. But you didn't stop there. You offered practical solutions on how our governments and other stakeholders can provide the leadership needed in the innovation space. And in the words of our president, you reinforce the message that CDB is the bank that we want our young people to embrace, the bank we want our youth to believe in, and the institution that is here to promote their dreams and ambitions. Dear youth panelists, seriously, where do I begin? To paraphrase former First Lady Michelle Obama, you solidified in my mind that you will be the generation that makes new discoveries, builds unimaginable industries, and transforms our economies and our lives. You will be the generation that brings opportunity and prosperity to the forgotten corners of our region. You will be that generation that pioneers new innovations in technology and reduce our dependence on non-renewable energy sources. Kyle, Greta, Carlton, Bevan, the bank is indebted to you for agreeing to join us today, to share your insights and experiences on education and innovation imperatives. You are indeed the generation of unlimited potential. VPO Isaac Solomon, boss, thank you for sharing your passion and your vision for a sustainable and resilient Caribbean. You powerfully articulated that the structural barriers and biases facing our young people must be overcome. We thank you for your leadership and for your unwavering commitment to be part of the solution. To our youth advocates, we at the CDB stand with you. We see you and we heard your voices. Education for innovation and innovation for education. A dedicated fund for innovation, safe spaces for unconventional creations, qualifications that drive change, and the celebration of our young social solution creators. We listened, and together we can move the youth development agenda forward. Shout out to our expert moderators, Terry Carell and Raphael. Thank you so much for your phenomenal facilitation today. Governors, management, colleagues, seminar attendees, and partners have already begun giving glowing feedback about your energy, dynamism, and humor in drawing out so many voices and so many issues. Personally, I love the way you wove people's personal experiences into the discussion about education and innovation. Your professionalism and meticulous eye for detail ensure that this forum ran smoothly. Once again, thank you for an incredible job. To the organizing committee, an event like this cannot happen overnight. We have been fortunate to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues who know their job and are results-oriented. So on behalf of the management of the bank, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our heartfelt thanks for the near-perfect logistical support and guidance you extended to all those involved in this event. And finally, to you, our audience, for this seminar. Thank you for choosing to share some of your time with us and with our region's youth today. We deeply appreciate your active participation. Ladies and gentlemen, do stay well, and I thank you.
Oh.
Wow. Wow.
Best
Wow.
like an Obama moment when he kind of just drops the mic, kisses and says, everybody, please. Thank you so very much for not only looking like a stepping razor, as we would say in Jamaica, but for delivering with such eloquence and leaving no stone unturned. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of Raphael when I say thank you so very much for the heartfelt compliments. We absolutely appreciate it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Now, if I can, with your permission, Terry, get a bit unplugged here. Today was a vibe. It was a whole vibe. And I'm so excited that we've had a space like this, where we've been able to not just hear and celebrate what really is not just the future, but the present of innovation that we need. And also, we've been able to document some important imperatives for innovation that are going to help to drive our nation forward. What stuck out the most to you, Terry?
I think what it is that there was just a space for many different levels of youth. When you speak to the members of CDB, they'll tell you it's very important to catch different life cycles of young persons. So it wasn't just to catch the older end, but to also catch the younger ones. And I think when we involve different parts of the spectrum together, you find that the richness of the experiences and the perspectives are so much wider. And I think I definitely appreciate that.
Absolutely. Show-stopping event. I don't think that anyone who spent the last few hours or so with us, 2 hours or so with us, would regret the time spent here, the conversations had here. And moreover, Terry, we want to make sure that these conversations continue in small pockets across the region, in stores where people are working together, in schools, in community groups and associations. We want this dialogue to continue because that is how we're going to drive our nation and our region forward holistically.
Absolutely. And it's all about the action. So as we disperse, as we leave, as we go to our different corners, our different communities, our different countries, I'd just like to leave you with these words that I hope you will just reflect upon. And certainly I am not as talented as the spoken word winners, but I hope you will understand why I chose these words. We must have the cultural confidence to develop technologies of our own kind on a timeline that plays to our strengths and which captures the imagination of our own people. We must become a developer of ideas and technologies that allow us to overcome the everyday disadvantages of being a small island development state. Listen, the time is now for regional governments to develop and implement forward-thinking and disruptive program concepts, policies, and platforms that fast-track development of the Caribbean's technology economy. These were the words of the Honorable Mia Mottley, Chairperson of the Board of Governors and Prime Minister of Barbados in her Time to Pivot address. I hope we will reflect on it. I'm Dr. Terry Carrell-Reed. Pleasure to have served as a co-host. And
my name is Raphael Saul. It's been an honor and a privilege. We can't wait till next time.
Take care, guys. Please be
have
safe.
A wonderful one. Be safe. Bye-bye.
All the best.